How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Hot Corner live strategy session. I am your host, as always, Steve Strazza, the Director of Research at All Star Charts. Doing this on Friday this week instead of the regularly scheduled Wednesday Director of Research videos that we typically do because we were traveling. We were out on the West Coast earlier this week. Did a studio visit, got to see the guys. Shout out Gene, who's running this show right now. Let's jump right into it because it's been a busy week in the market and there's plenty to talk about. So nothing we discuss here today constitutes any solicitation to buy or sell any securities. It's solely for informational purposes, not to be construed as investment advice. For more on our disclaimer, visit allstarcharts.com/terms. I really want to spend the intro section of today just focusing on energy. The broader market has been correcting since mid-July, so for about 2 months now. Most charts, if you look over that time frame, most groups are lower, right? Since late July, including the major averages. If you look at energy stocks, however, they've gone on to make new highs. They've been just fine throughout this corrective phase, right? Energy has been moving higher while everything else has been down or sideways since the summer. What's more is when we zoom out on a chart of, this is large cap energy sector spider. So it's about 20 of the biggest energy companies listed on U.S. exchanges. You see these key former highs, the shelf of former highs back in 2018. We broke out, right? And then we've pretty much just been digesting these gains off the COVID lows in a nice little range here. You have the pivot highs right around $93, $94, and we're challenging that level this week. Pulling back a little bit here today, XLE is down 1%. But it's been a good week. And if you look at the weekly chart, which I don't have here, looks like this will be the third straight week of gains. So energy's been strong. For me, this really explains it better than anything. So what we're looking at here is an absolute price chart of XLE and a relative price chart. If you walk this back to the left-hand side of the chart, we have the COVID lows, right? And then on a relative basis, we bottomed out later in 2020, later in that year. These massive bottoms were in both absolute and relative terms. And then energy enjoyed a steady uptrend where it outperformed the broader market. Consistently outperformed the broader market actually for 2 years, 21 and 22. Then it's been straight sideways, right? So when we think about the sideways action in energy stocks, they've been stuck sideways since June of 2022. It's in the context of a very strong primary uptrend, right? So we came into this consolidation phase off of a strong bull market for energy. Now we've been going sideways, digesting gains. One thing we know, as any good technician does, is that trends are likely to persist, so that these consolidations that we're looking at, therefore, are likely to resolve higher in the direction of the underlying trend, right? So I think that happens on absolute terms first, right? It looks like it's going to happen any day now if we get another retest of this 94 level, maybe next week, a week later. And then the relative trend, ideally, likely to follow, break out of this range as well. And there, that would suggest that energy stocks will go on to enjoy another period of sustained outperformance, similar to that what we saw in 21, 22, right? When we look beneath the surface or at the intermarket picture for energy stocks, here's crude oil. Not only is crude oil heading back, back around $90, it's been absolutely ripping. As the dollar's been rallying, mind you, it's important to note, it's outperforming its peers, right? So commodities are starting to, accelerate or start to show, some sort of short-term momentum coming back into this asset class. And when we dig in, crude oil is one of the strongest contracts. And it's really not, it's not just crude oil. It's all of these energy contracts, right? So this is crude, heating oil, and gas. Gasoline is a little bit behind, but it's not going to resolve in a different direction than crude oil and heating oil, right? So if crude oil and heating oil are going, you got these, cute little bases here. If they're going to go, you're going to get a similar base breakout from gasoline. And not that this is the point of what we're really trying to do here. This matters to, all of us, not just as investors, but citizens of the world, of the United States. What does this mean for inflation, right? If we're looking at the charts and they're suggesting, oh boy, crude oil is breaking back out of a reversal pattern, which means we're going to get follow through to the upside, puts crude somewhere above 100. What does that mean for inflation? We saw this when crude oil and gasoline here peaked and rolled over early 2022, right? CPI was rolling over as well. And that's when everybody started to finally come around and realize throughout the year, well, it took until late 2022, oh, inflation's kind of over for now. Well, what if these charts now turn around and head back to where they were early 2022? What if they exceed these levels? Expect inflation to start ticking higher again. Commodity prices make up more than a third of the inflation print, the CPI print. You can overlay CPI chart with crude oil, gasoline. They track, right? And that makes sense. It's literally part of that number. If gasoline and crude oil are going to break higher from these reversal patterns, I think it's only a matter of time before that narrative changes. Inflation is back, and the Fed maybe even talking about hiking rates again. Now, for what matters, if we think energy stocks are breaking out, crude oil is breaking out of a nice reversal pattern, there are opportunities not just in your traditional oil and gas names, but look at the peripheral plays, right? These alternative energy groups, whether it's coal or uranium, which we'll talk about in a second. Look at coal here. Now, this is our custom index. We only have a handful of names here. In this index, we have like 9 names, 8 or 9 names. And that's about all there is, at least from anything with ample liquidity. That's about all you have to choose from in the coal industry these days. But point is, these stocks look really good. This is the coal index making new all-time highs. Uranium is another one of those groups that I think it's really interesting and is one of the better groups or vehicles to use to play a new leg higher in energy. So uranium, this is URA. You could just buy the fund, express a bullish thesis that way. We actually have 2 uranium names in our hot list. We did a little digging just earlier today. I like this one. This will be a brand new setup. This is Centrus Energy Corp. LEU. It's a small stock. It's about 800 million, but I'm okay with it. The average dollar volume is just about there. Listen, it's so clean. It's a vehicle. We don't have many options to play these, super niche energy subgroups like uranium. So I think we could bend the rules a little bit here. We prefer to see like about $1 billion in market cap. Like I said, it's 800 million. You're right there. I think it'll be $1 billion soon, though. If we clear this 51 zone here, these pivot highs, and right back to these highs from late 2021. So above 51, we like Centrus Energy with a target of 89. There's a sizable insider buy here. Form 4 filer over $1 million last year. Uranium Energy Corp. This is UEC. Look, you could zoom in and try to find the level. It's not too clean. UEC is really, really ripped the past few months. I think it probably deserves a cool off here. Look at this 430 area to buy on weakness, or just be patient with this one, right? Because this is a monster base. This base shaping up. I think we get, that base breakout above 665. Maybe you could use the pivot highs from 22 here, about 650 if you want to jump it. But above there, long all day, first target around 1045. Vice President CEO was the inside buyer back in March of this year. Love to see that. ConocoPhillips. Now to the more traditional energy plays, right? Let's talk about some oil and gas names now. There are a lot of them. We have a lot on our list. Here are some of our favorites. ConocoPhillips. We had a Form 4 filer from just February of this year. Look, we got the massive base breakout here a few years back. Now we've been consolidating in this little range between the first fib and the breakout level. We're above 127.50 long. Next target 193. Phillips 66, more on the refiner side of things. Still hasn't quite reclaimed those 2018 highs, but we're right there, and that's a perfect level to get long against. So call it 123, 124. You could get involved above that level, target of 175. Civitas Resources, CIVI. We talked about this one before. It's chief legal officer out here buying almost $500,000 worth of share, $500,000 worth of stock. That was just in May. 85 is the level here, right? You got those highs from early 2022. We're above 85. We're kind of coiling right at it right now. Yeah, I like the way this one's setting up. Pulling back a little bit here this week. Yeah, but it's a nice tight setup. Ugly red candle from last week. Looks like there was some news there. But 85, this is a buy on strength setup. Make it prove itself to us. We're trading around 83.80 just right now today. So strength above 85, targeting 110. Total Energies, TTE, not exactly a leader in energy, okay? But it is one of the larger energy names around the globe. Big multinational energy company. I think it pays a big yield, which I'm checking on now. Yeah, you're getting 4.7% here. It's $150 billion market cap, right? So this is one of the big boys in the space. And you always want exposure to them, right? Whether it's a Chevron or a Royal Dutch Shell or a BP or an Exxon, right? There's different examples depending on where you want to be around the world. Total is based out of, I think it's France. Let me double check. Yeah, Total's France. So yeah, we can get involved here. It's pretty clean. We have this big, downtrend line drawn from all the way back pre-financial crisis. But if you were to zoom in on this, you would see like a nice base kind of shaping up right here with the 2018 highs marking the breakout level. That comes in right around the 65 level. We're pretty much there. Trading around 60. Let me make sure I get this right. This thing is listed on every exchange. I was just looking at Europe. We're trading around 65 and change right here today. So it is triggering, pulling back a little bit today. On a more tactical level, yeah, you have the pivot highs from just 8 right around 65. So this one's just about ready to go. If we can hold this breakout here that we got this week, we can get long. Target of 91. That gets you back to the pre-financial crisis highs. Northern Oil and Gas, NOG. Angelo Gordon and Company have a active interest in this one, 8.7%. Last updated late last year. Again, similar to a lot of these energy setups, we got the 2018 highs coming into play. Comes in right around 44.50, 44.60. We are coiling nice and tight, just below this level right now. This one is going to be a wait and buy on strength setup at this point. We're trading around 40 and change today. Stock's been a little bit weak over the trailing week now. So let's be a little bit patient with this one. But I do think we eventually get that breakout. Buy strength above 44.50, target of 70 in NOG. CBay, this is another new one. Perceptive Advisors. We have a institution in this one, owns about 5.6%. We got an update on that back in March of this year. Looks like an energy stock with the 2018 highs, right? Really clean. Just breaking out now. Let me see what we're trading at here today. Looks like we're getting some follow through right away on this breakout. The breakout level's right around 1570. We're around 1690 today. Did pull back a little bit since Tuesday. So 1690, I think, yeah, you could still get long here. Yeah, the risk reward still very much works here at current prices. So as long as we're above 1570, we like this long. CBay, this is a biotech stock. Biotech, not the best group right now, but you're always going to find hot stocks in an industry like biotech, right? Because they're all very different. So CBay looks like whatever they're doing is working. They got an institution in the name. We're above 1570. We like it long towards 2450. Now, I just want to run through some mega cap names, some big popular names that we all know. and love, because there are some really good setups, right? And they keep popping up. We have some clear levels here. This is Amazon, Earl Blumenauer, House of Representatives, political filing back in January. He got involved, not the biggest purchase, but that's okay. If we're above 147, that's the 62% retracement in Amazon. Then we're going right back to these old all-time highs of 188. And it's just a really clean level, right? We love trading against these August highs. You've been watching this show for any amount of time, you know we talk about these August highs a lot. Look, you got the August highs in Amazon. Great company. Who doesn't want to own it? There's your level. 147, long back to the all-time highs of 188. Google, I know we keep talking about this one. I just liked this setup so much. The time to be buying this was back around 125 when we, first got the breakout, right? Amazon, I think, is a similar setup that starts to follow along the same path. Both of them retraced 62%, found a little resistance there, finally worked through it. Now Google is on its way. I think Amazon goes on to look very similar to Google, where it also takes out its 62% retracement, starts heading back. Google's at this point 10, $13 away from its old all-time. So just to be clear, if you're not already in Google, I think, this isn't the best place to get in. Risk reward's not great here, trading right in the middle of the range. Wait till we get, to our target of about 151, or maybe a buy on weakness if we get it. But this was more for illustrative purposes of what I think Amazon goes on to look like very soon. NVIDIA, still working at its first Fibonacci extension of this little base that's shaped up during the bear market of 2022. If we're above 476, I really want to see confirmation that the pivot highs, which come in around, what do we got here, about 495, right? NVIDIA is going to be back in the 500s. Just when, right? So make it prove it. Let's make the stock prove it to us before we get long. 475 you could use. 495 I think is the ultimate confirmation, right? Those pivot highs. It's also just about the intraday high from the most recent earnings reaction day. So 475, 495 depends on who you are and how you want to play this. But if and when NVIDIA is back in the 500s, you got to be long. The next stop is 700. Berkshire Hathaway. We had a director in this name last summer. It's been that long now. I remember this filing. Ronald Olson. So Berkshire Hathaway, Form 4 filer. Who doesn't want to own Berkshire? Even people who work there out here buying stock. If we're above 362, those early 2022 highs, perfect place to define our risk at the old all-time highs. And the first fib extension gets us 425. One last one. Walmart. Chart looks as good as anything these days. A lot of sideways, massive consolidation for several years, right? Finding our risk here at the 2022 highs, just like we talked about in Berkshire, so many others. Got the breakout, right? Took a little time to work through that overhead supply. For us, about 161 is that level. Want to be long against there. Randall Stevenson, who I think is the CEO or former CEO of AT&T. Almost positive. Somebody can fact check me on that. Pretty sure. All these guys, you're the executive of one company, you sit on the board of another. It's very normal. So Randall Stevenson, he's an old executive of AT&T. He was the Form 4 filer. This was just back in March, bought $1 million worth of stock. So he likes it. He probably knows what's going on. 161 is the level. If we're above there, Walmart keeps rallying higher. We're targeting 188. That's it for today. No questions in the chat. Nobody wants to come hang out with me. Listen, everybody have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us, and we will be back next week with more.